Debilitating.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's East Grinstead Town Council Planning Committee meeting. Welcome, everybody. We've got a show tonight. First of all, apologies for absence or substitutions. I don't think we've got any absences.
Haven't heard any apologies.
No, that's great. Item number 2 is to receive the minutes of the meetings held on the 24th of July. Can I have a second for that?
Second, yeah.
Thank you very much. For all those in favour, thank you. Excellent stuff. Item number 3 is to receive members' declarations of interest. We'll start off with anybody. Rex?
Yes, I am the member of the Sussex District Council District Planning Committee, where this application will come before that committee. So I'm speaking tonight as a town councillor, but I reserve my right, should this application come before that committee, to verify my view should further information come to light in the officer report. Thank you.
Chairman, can I just remind the committee we have got a reasonable number of people in the Zoom room this evening, so please could you speak up nice and clearly when you are speaking so that the owl will pick you up. Thank you.
Thanks, Town Clerk. Would anybody else have any declarations of interest?
I can't hear.
Those of you who are in the Zoom rooms, could you please mute yourselves? And our councillors will make sure they speak nice and clearly. But please mute yourselves.
Thank you. As a member of Mid Sussex District Council, I do sit on the licensing committee and make that aware, although we don't have any applications this evening.
Thank you. That's great. There's no chairman's announcements this week. Item number 5 is the appeal AP 230049, which is Little Hay, Holt High Road, East Grinstead. It's the erection of 2 3-bedroom semi-detached dwellings with associated parking and access from Holt High Road. The District Council has written to advise of an appeal made to the Secretary of State for the Environment against the decision of the District Council to refuse planning permission. Any representation should reach the planning inspectorate no later than the 24th of August. The East Grinstead Town Planning Committee of the 20th of June had some concerns as to the access to the Holt High Road being a busy road and would like to see the trees on site protected. The committee, as subject to the satisfactory visual road displays for access and egress, would support approval. It's just for noting. Noted. Thank you. Item number 6 is the protected tree applications. There's a few this week, actually. A few sort of raised a few eyebrows, and I'm sure they did. Councillor Mrs. Mockford, has anybody got any comments to make?
I would like to make a comment on the number is incorrect. It says DM12, it's actually DM23 1908. Yew trees at Stream Park, it says One Oak Fell. There are actually 2 suggestions on the application form, one to reduce the weight or 2 to fell. So I would like to make sure that the tree officer is aware of both of them. Thank you.
We would normally put these to the tree officer anyway for their recommendation. So we'll, with that extra note in mind, we'll go for approval for notifying, going with the tree officer. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
And all those in approval of that.
That's carried, Chair.
Item number 7 is the applications stage of the meeting. We're going to go straight into DM 230810, land south of Crawley Down Road, Felbridge, East Grinstead first, and then the other two we'll take second after this one, because we've got the majority of people, I would imagine, on Zoom are interested in this particular application. DM 230810 is the demolition of the existing structures and the erection of 200 1, 2 and 3 and 4-bedroomed homes with 30% affordable, with new vehicular accesses via Crawley Down Road, together with associated car parking, open space and landscaping. The amended plans and additional information were received on the 25th of July regarding transport, air quality, trees and drainage. Over 200 representation letters objected to the development, 25 recent ones than we had in May, and with regards to access to the local amenities and coalescence and traffic and flooding. There's a document from the Historic Environment Department, which is asking for an archaeological study to be carried out. There is also not sufficient bat surveys, and the ecological report wants more information before anything gets done. Felbridge Parish Council raised issues with regards to flood risk and traffic, and there's concerns about those two things, plus non-compliance with the design guide and not encouraging reliance on private car nor existing townscapes. This came to the committee on the 18th of April already. The developer has come back with amended plans regarding, as I've said, transport, air quality, trees and drainage. So we'll just go ahead and this. Sorry, so this is the plan as it stands, and previously there was just one access road, which was here. There's now two access roads. The second access road is here. One of the objections was from a resident that lives very close to this new entrance, and that road entrance is going to be extremely close to the side of their property. As you can see, this is the main development here is the 140-ish, and then there's 60-ish on that side. The tennis courts and bowling covered with Crawley Down Road goes down that road. So that just gives you an outline plan of the proposal again. I've got a couple of extra slides in the presentation just to give you an idea of some extra things that have been made more clear. These particular areas are water detention areas, so it's a bit misleading on the information that's on the portal that the developers put in, because on some coloured slides these are still green in colour, so it could look as though they're actually green space when they're not. So that just gives you an idea of the density of the place as well. And then this is the density plan. The yellow is low density and the orange is medium density, just to give you a flavour. And then the last couple of slides really are just to give us an idea of the actual look of the properties within the development, and the style and design of them. I'll see if I can actually enlarge that so that I might need to come out of that screen, apologies. It won't let me expand the search. I can't actually make that any larger, folks. I'm really sorry. Unless Craig can help me with this, I don't know. Can you? No, that's- Okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
It should do
yes,
that.
it came up just then.
Yeah.
When you did that, you came up
Yeah,
with a
hold down
slidey bowl.
control
There you are, look.
and then press the plus key.
Where's the plus key?
Up in the top right hand corner. It was.
Oh, that's because.
Where's your plus key?
Yeah,
Ah, there we go.
We're asking us.
Sorry, folks. The screen, this was in the way. Sorry. Right, there we go.
Try that.
So you don't have to be. Oh, I forgot to.
It's not doing that.
Up a bit. Yay,
It's sort of doing it
you're getting there.
in a kind of really wacky way.
Okay, that's as good as it's going to get. Is that all right? So that just gives you a feel for the design of the properties. This is the flats and apartments design. I'll just see if I can actually. Well, let me do it. Sorry, folks. Anyway, that's 500%. I'm getting bigger than that, but it gives you an idea anyway of the flow of the properties. This is the other plans for the other style of other properties, so you can see how they all blend in. We'll kick off with Councillor Whitaker, who's the board member for Inverhorn. If you'd like to start us off.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think this is the third time of asking that we have seen this application in fairly short order. The context of the site, clearly it's Mid Sussex District Council allocated site through the site allocation development plan document, which has been through the full examination process. That was very protracted, was over a 2-year period. So it is an allocated site. So in principle, the principle of housing has been accepted by the District Council Planning Authority. So we're looking at the details. Having said that, as an allocated site, my view as a district council and town council is the bar for Mid Sussex in terms of giving any future consent is raised much higher than any normal site, because it's an allocated site. It's specifically allocated through a selection process that's very rigid, very strict criteria for selection against lots of other sites. Been through examination. However, the new layout, just running through the points on the portal this morning. The 2 accesses, personally, I think it's an improvement from the single access. We've got a lot more drainage information than we didn't have before, both storm and foul. The foul drainage is now got 2 pumping stations with a rising main that is proposed to enter the existing foul sewer in Crawley Down Road, which in itself is just over 6 inches in diameter, which sounds minimal to me, even for a rising pumping main. And the reports on the portal by the applicant suggest that the water company will need to do some area mains, what's called reinforcement. So upgrade the sewers at their cost. The details of that have yet to be confirmed, but it is likely that there'll be, if this is approved, significant additional civil engineering drainage works within Crawley Down Road to upgrade those sewers, which already in that area we know has caused significant traffic chaos in both directions, to Crawley Down to East Grinstead, to Felbridge, to Tanbridge, and everywhere else. So the issues still on drainage is stormwater. The reports from the consultant through the 3 tranches of flood risk assessments, that are revised documents that they've submitted since April, in my opinion, are still flawed. they state that there have been no flood occurrences on the EA register or records. Well, no, in the last year, that's clearly incorrect, because the whole of the Felbridge area, Felbridge Water, Birches Industrial Estate, all the way down, and the footpath and the track that crosses the site, bisects this site, was completely flooded. There's evidence has been forwarded to the district council. I met the district council drainage officer there in January to go around the whole area. So Natalie, so she is fully aware of, and she produced her own 12-page report. So there is evidence, clear evidence, that have been submitted also by Infrastructure First from the Felbridge area and others, and Felbridge Parish Council, which you referred to their report. It's an excellent summary they've done. I think it was dated the 5th of May, very, very detailed. So a lot more information. The layouts and design has been through another series of what's called design review panels, which are a panel of 6 consultant architects that the district council regularly appoint to review independently the layouts, and effectively they've given it what's called an amber, which is a thumbs up, but they've still got some doubts about the layout. Okay, but it's significant improvement on their view. Their first view was they didn't like the layout, so that's a lot better. Transport reports, again, there are 3 transport reports by a consultant called Motion Consultants. Again, parts of the report are very good. They refer to all of the previous Atkins, Judd reports, transport reports, et al. That have been done in the last 12 years, 3 or 4 transport reports, and about how the Star Junction is consistently over capacity in both peak times. However, I think their report is flawed, and I quote their report, page 25, paragraph 5.45. Although congested, addition of development on this particular site would not result in severe impact of highway network. So, you know, everybody in East Grinstead knows the situation, that is patently not the case. So, you know, they're trying to, in my opinion, call black is white and white is black. So the essence of this previous town council's position, and certainly my position, this town council adopted a planning policy position statement, which, whilst it wasn't formally adopted in our neighbourhood plan, it sits alongside the neighbourhood plan, whereby we have called for, through the district council, what's called a condition precedent or a Grampian condition to be applied to any future potential planning permissions, should they be granted, to this site, which is SA19, and also site SA20, which is another allocated site, which is geographically immediately adjacent to this site, which we know the planning application is imminent to be submitted for that. So that planning policy statement is still pertinent, I think, and is the overriding factor for me as a town councillor, for me as a district councillor, and I quote, so that Felbridge Parish Council on the portal, their 5th of May excellent submission by the town clerk. I quote the top of page 2, and I'd like to read it verbatim. Felbridge Parish Council fully supports the East Grinstead Town Council amendment to the East Grinstead Neighbourhood Plan that requires Mid Sussex District Council to issue a Grampian precedent condition for SA19 and 20 sites. Should any future planning consent be granted for either or both of these allocated sites, then Mid Sussex District Council guarantee that section 106/278 legal agreements will be executed prior to consent. This includes an upgrading of the A22-A264 Star Road Junction to provide full mitigation for the existing overcapacity of this junction. Mitigation to negate the increased capacity caused by the proposed extra 775 dwellings between SA19 and 20 of this application's 200 of those, plus the additional accommodation for the 120 plus residents of the retirement community on the SA20 site, and the relocation of Imberhorn Lower School, which is a future project for the school, will clearly increase traffic pressure as well. So the position of this town council, I know it's an adopted policy that hasn't changed because that was adopted just under a year ago. And I think this town council's response from the 18th of April meeting still holds true, notwithstanding the fact that the applicant has submitted significant additional technical information, but the strategic position, I believe, on the highways is unchanged. So in my opinion, I think this committee should make the same recommendations pretty much on the same rationale.
Thank you. So you are putting forward a proposal of refusal.
I'm recommending refusal. Yeah, additionally, there is more information on section 106 contributions. There's some detailed correspondence from West Sussex County Council, particularly with educational contributions that they are seeking, around about 2.5 million for education, library, sixth form, and a TAG contribution. So that's not insignificant. But previously, the application, we had no details of that. So it's good to get some details. What we haven't got are the Mid-Sussex 106 requested details as part of their infrastructure delivery plan. NHS have requested £303,000 contribution as part of the negotiated package by the district council officers. So a lot more information. So it has, the application is better than it was before, but fundamentally, strategically, I still think it is flawed, unless and until this town council can get a written legal undertaking from the district council for that grounding condition.
Great, thank you. I will second that proposal. Would anybody else like to make any comments?
From I was involved, obviously recently elected, and haven't seen this before at the planning committee. Having gone through the vast swathes of information which took some time, I think one thing, and I may have missed it, but it just looks to me like there's the green space. We were talking about a sort of alternative green space. I couldn't see that. Now, did I miss something in terms of they're currently building on greenfield? They're supposed to provide alternative. Am I right in saying that's not been provided, or that's not been needed for this?
There is some allocated green space areas within the development, but not much.
That's kind of where it comes down to. I couldn't see anything mentioned in respect of outside of this site in provision of that. From where I was looking, 200 houses, a lot of, as we saw, compressed development. I think amber was it, or moderate compression. There's not much. There's, I think, 2 playgrounds. I think, if I'm right in saying, in this site. I just wasn't sure if that was a suitable enough green space for the amount. They're assuming that the recreation ground is not used and can basically be used by the developer as that, but without providing it themselves. So I just wondered if anybody else on this committee had any thoughts on that, or whether we could add that into the equation.
No, yeah, definitely add that into the equation. But the SANG areas within the development would be a contribution.
They haven't included a SANG as such in their development. You're quite right. There are some various green areas, but there is not a SANG. And a SANG, the suitable alternative natural green space, that is a different type of policy. That's all to do with not or discouraging people from going onto the Ashdown Forest. So as part of their recompense, they will be required to make a contribution to the SAM, which is somebody help me out from the district. The SAM it's the mitigation against, so where there are SANGs, such as this one here, and the new one over in Hull Place Farm, where those have been allocated, and then they will then make a contribution towards them, because they will be asking their net increase to be offset by those existing SANG, if that makes sense.
I think just additional clarity around that, because as I say, I couldn't, it may have been somewhere within the vast quantity, I just could not see any reference to that whatsoever.
No. Anything else? If it's okay, I've got a few things, as you can probably imagine. I totally concur with what Councillor Whitaker has said, and really, I couldn't really see any benefit to the local community within the proposals. Travel assessment was eye-opening. I mean, it's great that they've done a more recent one, but it's clearly saying it's over capacity at certain times of the day, and that their proposals would, in essence, bring that capacity down from over 100% to 83%. And I can't, for the life of me, see how that's going to work, if I'm honest. So I just don't. The reality and the wishful thinking are two different things. There's an active travel plan included within that travel assessment. Slightly underwhelming, to say the least. It doesn't really do anything to reduce car dependency. And the problem that we've got within this location is that within this particular development is that the density levels are higher than a semi-rural location should be. And therefore, everybody who lives there is going to have to drive to get anywhere, which is not great. There's nothing really in there to make people feel safe to walk or cycle within that area. They're proposing to use Worth Way as an alternate route to access into the town centre. People won't use that on the current surface that is available to us on that one. So that could be something that we could request S1061 is to look at upgrade that particular route. They're also looking to say within 5 years there'll be a 10% increase in active travel use and a 10% reduction in car dependency. That's not going to happen either, I don't think, in reality. The survey really doesn't fill me with that much confidence. Sorry, the assessment doesn't fill me with that much confidence, actually. There's also, for me, and I'm sorry to go on, there's the public right of way concerns that were detailed by West Sussex County Council. They've not been addressed. We've mentioned the archaeological and ecological reports there. They've not been addressed yet either. The NHS report that came through indicated that the system is already at capacity. So as Councillor Whitaker said, although there's a contribution for it, it would need to be significant to make it work to make it work for the additional residents. And then really from a design perspective, I find the design really poor. I know Councillor Whitaker mentioned that they've improved it, but I just don't think it's keeping with the local area. And it's out of character, really, it seems, for East Grinstead and Felbridge, which is obviously a DP26. So sorry, Town Clerk, I've not added any of the district plan numbers to all of that stuff. Apologies. Surrey County Council also sent in a very interesting letter on the 19th of July, really talking about the travel assessment and the congestion, and there's a lot of queries on there, which is excellent questions and queries. There's 11 of them. They've clearly not been addressed because everything was uploaded on the 25th. So that's
Sorry, Chairman, what's the date of that letter, please?
19th of July. Sorry. Has anybody else got any? So we have sorry, Councillor Scott, I beg your pardon.
I thought Rex did a brilliant presentation, which I think he brought up very in depth and detail. But the report, from what I could see of it, I looked at it, seems to have been written by someone who hasn't got a clue about East Grinstead, really. If they actually think that they can change the junction at Felbridge for 200 units, which could be circa 400 cars, I just can't see that's feasible. It's never been feasible in the past. And this is only going to exacerbate the problem down there. I just cannot see how on earth they can alter, amend the junctions around there for circa 400 vehicles. I just cannot see it's feasible.
No.
And you can stare at it forever and it still will not give you an answer.
Absolutely.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. With your leave, I could come back exactly on the point Councillor Scott's made. As I said earlier on, the strategic floor is the junction upgrade for both sides, not just this site, it's for 200, for 775, plus the sites that have come through the system, effectively in the previous, particularly in the last 5 or 6 years, and in Felbridge, literally adjacent to these sites, probably another 250 units. So, in my capacity as a district councillor for the last 2 years, I have been asking at council 4 questions to the planning cabinet member, and also involved with very senior planning officers and other officers at the district council, trying to get confirmation of a commitment that the district council is working with Tandridge District Council and particularly Surrey County Council, as well as West Sussex, which we know they are on these highways strategic issues to get resolved. And to this date, and my last question was to the district council cabinet member for housing, not for planning, Councillor Gibson, who's in our midst this evening. And that information, I've yet to receive that reassurance in writing that progress is being made between the 4 authorities. And I've been seeking that reassurance for 2 years.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to say anything? Councillor Scott, yeah.
I refocus my comments on the junction at Felbridge, but if you was a level-headed person, you would try and avoid the junction at Felbridge as bad as it would be, and you would turn left, and it's going to impact something unbearable on the area of Crawley. Coming out onto the main road, that's the route they'll take up to the Duke's Head roundabout, and the impact there would be colossal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with the issues that have been raised and the depth of feeling as well within the residents. So, Councillor Gibbs.
Very quickly. So, my thinking going into this item was that the highways issue is going to be the overriding topic, which seems to have been. So, I would say that whatever discussion we had tonight we'd come out with certain conditions to go back to in our response. And I think Rex put it really well about the Grampian precedent, that it's there for a reason. And when you look at things like the Star Junction, if we do want to go back in our response to district council with any sort of leverage, then it's perfect time to utilise that precedent that's there for a purpose. So, yeah.
Thank you. I must stress, though, that the Grampian precedent that we've put in place as a policy is doesn't carry as much weight as the neighbourhood plan, unfortunately, because it's not an adopted policy within the plan. So it isn't something that we can guarantee.
No, certainly not.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. So I am also county councillor for that particular area, and it has the promoter's pursuit of this has occupied me much over the past 2.5 years. First of all, I think I should remind the council of Sally Blomfield's response to this council regarding the resolution that was passed on the so-called Grampian, the need for a Grampian condition. I fully support the idea of Grampian conditions, and it's something which I'm pursuing at the moment in the context of the district plan review. But I think that the council has to recognise, as you've just said, that it will not carry much weight. I think the second point is that developments are not required to mitigate existing overcapacity. And I think that has to be remembered as well for this. Against that background, I do want to add one specific point, which I don't think I have seen discussed anywhere, which is that the allocation of a site is to do with the the principle of use of the ground and the quantum. Now, the inspector also focused on access, and he focused on that to a great deal. And he, at my request, he visited both sites as part of his examination of the area. So he walked all the way through down the bridle way. We talked at length about the issues there to do with the site for the 200 and how it ran into the 550 and how the 550 then exited out into the road system. So he saw it firsthand, although I believe it was a day when the congestion was not as severe, and certainly it wasn't at the peak times. The point that I would like to make is that the inspector, in considering his opinion on this, was shown a single access into 200, a site of 200. He was not shown two access points, one into 60 homes and one into 140. Now, I just wonder whether or not what was in his mind and whether or not that principle would have, to me, this looks like two different sites, very different sites. And we've seen both in terms of density and in other factors, proneness to flooding, for example. I think that there's one site very prone and the other site less prone. But it looks to me like two sites, two different access points, and that to me is not what is in the DPD as a selected site. Would encourage the council to raise that point, because I think that is relevant.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? So we'll take it to the vote. Councillor Whitaker proposed refusal. Seconded. All those in favour of that? Okay. Thank you. So that is the application 230810. If all of our guests, our residents on Zoom, they can leave now if they wanted to, or we will carry on with the meeting for the next couple of applications. And thank you everybody for that input for that, particularly Councillor Whitaker. Thanks, Rex. So the next application is DM 23 1164. It's the demolition of the existing mobile home number 2 on site and replacing it with a new 2-storey 4-bedroom bungalow. Building control have asked about the drainage for the building, as it's not fully clear, but there's no other objections on the portal. This is Ashplat North. Is that Councillor Mrs. Belsey, or yes?
Yes, do you have any pictures?
I do. So that is, so we've got the site here at the moment. So the existing, there's 2 existing houses here, and that's the site where the mobile home is situated at the moment and where the bungalow is going to be built. And you can just see that. Let me just expand that. Apologies, folks.
Would you still have people in the Zoom room?
Oh, okay. I'll see if I can get that bigger. Is that? Can you see that? I have to get my glasses on now. Yeah, there we go. So the mobile home to be removed here, and they're going to be building the bungalow.
Well, I was going to raise that point later, but you've got there first. Right, yeah, 2 big bedrooms on the first floor. But anyway, yeah, 2-storey bungalow. It's interesting.
And this is the elevations to show you, as well as what it's going to look like. That gives you an idea of where we're at. Councillor Mrs. Belsey.
Yes, I haven't got any real objections to it. It just doesn't seem it's going to be on the same site. That was what I was querying. Are we then going to get something else on that site? Because it's replacing it in a different part, if
Yeah.
it indeed it is replacing it. That was my query.
Yeah.
Usually if it's something that's going to be replaced, I would have assumed it would be on
Same
that
footprint, yeah.
footprint, but
Yeah, I
here
agree.
it's on an alternative site, so that leads me to think, well, are we going to then get another? But if that was clarified, that it was, I
Yes.
haven't got any objections. We've already got the building at the front, which has been divided into, I think it's 3 units that are up for sale. It's behind, it's not going to be seen. I haven't got any other objections. I just like to query the word replacement.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we've got an approval recommendation, subject to the confirmation that it's not going to be built. There's not going to be another application for where that mobile
For
home
that
is now
site,
sitting.
this is on
Yes.
the understanding that it
Yes.
is a replacement for
Absolutely.
that
So we have a
dwelling, that it's not going to be another application for a subsequent dwelling
Yes.
on that.
Agreed. So we have a recommendation for approval on that basis. Can I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Scott. Does anybody have any other comments to make?
It's the one we alluded to, if I could, Chair. Yeah, it was just I think the thing that drew to me was just the perception of it being a bungalow. So straight away I'm thinking small, inconspicuous, as you say, sat behind. And I couldn't see in the plans kind of, the elevation. Yeah, but compared to the 2 buildings in front. So it was really hard to understand whether you say it's hidden. Well, is it? Because it's not actually really a bungalow. It's really hard for me to tell whether actually it could be seen from the road and whether it's actually going to actually be above the cottages in front. So I suppose it was more a clarification on whether it could be seen behind, well, actually, in fact, it's off to one side, but how big it was, how tall it was in comparison to those cottages. Because again, it was portrayed as a bungalow, and I'd suggest that's pushing it a little bit in terms of how it's being portrayed.
I think those 2 hats. Councillor Elizabeth.
Houses at the front are quite tall. They are actually, I think, almost 3 stories. So
It's hard to see on Google Maps. I did try and look at it.
Yeah. I don't think they would the building, particularly if it's a bungalow or even a shallow bungalow. I think it would be lower
Than those cottages are particularly tall.
Yeah, great. Would anybody else like to comment? Councillor Elizabeth.
I was just a little concerned with the access. But
Okay.
I mean,
So the access would be off the main road through here,
right. Okay.
I believe.
I think the view is they've already got access to the mobile homes.
Yes.
Yes, you're going from mobile home to a potential 4-bed, of which 2 upstairs are quite large, so potentially more, but ultimately there's still access the existing mobile home.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
It might be worth just noting that they previously asked for planning retrospective, I think, planning applications, because actually those mobile homes were there and they couldn't actually find approval for those. So I think before this committee must have come prior approvals to retrospectively approve the homes which are now being demolished and replaced.
Thank you. Right, all those in favour of that recommendation? Thank you very much. Okay, and then the last but not least application is DM 23198, which is the erection of 4 dwellings, highway works with associated parking and landscaping. There are 3 objections to this particular plan. 2, that the plan suggests attaching to the Ashflats House pumping station, which is private and has not been discussed, and also that some of the land shows Fairlight Lane, which is private, and permission is not given for that development to use that as access. Again, this is Ashflats North. Got a busy night, Councillor Mrs. Wilson.
Yes, I'm more concerned about this than I was previous application. It's quite a dangerous part of the road there. It's when it becomes the end of the residential and it comes into quite a narrow. I myself have had problems getting out of Fairlight and round there. It is really a hazardous place. So I have got more reservations in this. Have they had a highway report on it?
Not that I could see within the
Because
portal.
anyone coming in or out of Fairlight itself, it's, you know, you're taking, it is hazardous, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to see a report on the highway.
This particular application did come before us
Yes,
a couple of times, a couple of meetings ago,
Indeed.
which we did approve, and I think we did mention the access points quite rightly. But yes, I think a view on the
It's just a particularly dangerous
highways
part.
report would be good. What they've done, I've just indicated here. This is the before image with the access driveway here.
Mm.
This is what was before, and then this is what they've come back with in light of, I think, partly to do with the access down this particular road and permissions. So they're trying to mitigate that as much as possible. I think they still have to. I think they've still got access from that point because this house here has to have access from that road anyway, doesn't it? So they've mitigated the access points, which is some of the objections from residents. So that just to sort of clarify that point, really. Councillor Scott.
When this came up before, I made the comment that with that junction, anywhere near that junction there, is probably the worst junction in the whole of our town and the most dangerous. And I've said that before. And I've been up and down Fairlight Farm many times for various reasons, and it is a horrific place to come out of. And you do it your life in your hands, basically. They've got to find a way of removing that corner, opening it up. If they don't open it up, I think that you will have an accident there with more vehicles coming out. They've got to open that corner up.
Like a bell junction, so it's
Yeah,
a bit better.
got to open that corner. It should have been done many, many years ago, but now, now they've got this application, it's a good excuse to do just that. To make it a safer, to make it a safer junction.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just to say, Chair, just to confirm, we cannot discuss them, you know, the planning inspector would check the permissions around right of way and around the drainage situation. That will be done by the planning inspector as part of any application. There's just clarity around that.
Yes. Probably so.
The issues that were raised by the objectors
Yes, indeed.
are not strictly planning matters.
That was
You're
my
quite
question.
right.
Yes.
They're not strictly planning matters. They obviously would have to, the issue of drainage and disposing of foul water, that's got to be resolved as part of the planning application. And if the planners are not satisfied that there is indeed
Capacity,
access,
and
then it's not going to be allowed to happen.
Fine.
So yes, so it is what they will consider, but ownership of land is not technically the planning. Granting planning approval and then being able to actually make something happen are not always the same thing.
Thank you for clarifying.
So we have a recommendation for approval subject to the right and proper highways inspector reports, making sure that that junction is viable. Yeah, absolutely.
For people on the Holteye Road as well as the residents in the new site, it is a safety factor.
Absolutely. So we have that recommendation, and we have a second that. Sorry, sorry, Tim, I didn't even get a second. On that. So that's the recommendation. All those in favour of that?
Carried.
Great, thank you. So that is the end of the meeting. The next planning committee will be held on the 4th of September, Monday the 4th. And the time now is 7:48.